I don't know if you remember those peppers that I sowed just around December time, but now I've got a Vitapod absolutely full of healthy plants, and at this point there's no other option than to start pinching out the tops. I need to do that because they will grow and hit the top of the Vitapod, but I also need to do it so that we get a very bushy pepper plant in each case, and taking the tips out drives the plant to show its growth in the nodes between the leaves and to branch out basically and become a bushier plant. So I'll show you some examples of where I've already done that, and I'll show you also where I clip these plants and take the tips out. So here you can see a pepper that has been tipped at the top, just pinched out, and already you can see that it's sprouting from between the leaves and the stem, and that will continue, and I'll probably need to clip it more as time goes on. And also what you can see is some flowers, and I'm going to keep this pepper from flowering and make sure that I get rid of all those buds each time I see them, and just get all the focus from the energy of the plant into growing leaves and branching out. This is fiddly, but it's worth just getting rid of these small buds whenever you can, and this very fine pair of scissors serves the purpose and will be worth the effort in the long run. And so will go on over the coming weeks. So these are the chocolate pepper, sweet chocolate, and I'm needing to clip these out, pinch them. So I'm going to take a fairly substantial pinch at the top, which is going to take out all the buds that exist and really will take out the top shoots. And that really does seem quite drastic, but that's going to help tremendously in driving out lower branches of growth and getting a bushy plant. And here we have King of the North, which is the early sweet bell pepper. I thought it was worth showing you at this point. I've got some sort of leaf blemish, both surfaces, top and bottom, and that also is on the stems. Not absolutely sure what it is. Doesn't seem to be affecting the growth of the plant, but I'll keep an eye on it. This is the sweet pepper Semero early. You can see that blemish on the stem there as well. And this is the Californian Wonder sweet pepper, and this doesn't seem to be showing those blemishes in any way at all. So on the face of it, it tends to be variety specific, but we're going to treat these exactly the same. And now for the tallest, and this is the Damoka, Dado Damoka sweet Argy pepper, and as I say, these are growing the tallest of them all, and I'm therefore going to cut them fairly severely to encourage that side shooting. And once again, these seem to have that blemish, although it doesn't seem to be affecting the plant growth. So here's a close-up of that blemish that I found on the peppers, and after research I've established that it's edema. The issue appears as an abiotic problem, usually resulting from overwatering. That makes perfect sense to me. My Vitapod is on a bit of a slant, as I've indicated in the past, and the water tends to congregate in the left hand side of it, and I think that's resulting in this. And the plants that don't appear to have it, I think we're on the right hand side of the Vitapod. Basically the plant takes up water faster than it can use it, and in mild cases like this the simple solution is don't water as much, and if it persists you can try adding some calcium, as a deficiency of that mineral can also be a factor. So we learn something all the time, and in this instance, as tempting as it is, I've been overwatering and I just need to step back on the watering. This small tray of plants is the lavender which I sowed, which you can see in one of my earlier videos. I'll link to it. And the left hand side you can see there's absolutely nothing, and that was my saved seed, the pepper Joe's Long, which is clearly not going to work out, but the lavender's come on nicely, and I'm going to pop that up and put it back in the Vitapod. I've made a little bit more room now that I've pinched the tips out of all the peppers. So I've got 10 of these square pots prepared, and I'm going to select the 10 strongest shoots and seedlings, and I'm also going to, on the taller ones, pinch the tips out so that we get some lower stem shoots. So with no further ado, I'm just going to dig in and loosen the soil, take that clump out and separate it. You can see one particularly strong cutting here. Just going to make a good hole, drop him in and secure it down. Just need to make sure we don't have any air pockets. Firm it in nicely, and that's a nice plant ready. I'll do another one. So from this little group, it's quite a nice one. Just break up the soil, get myself a nice hole, drop it in, and I'm just making sure I don't go too far up the stem and then cause some sort of damage to the stem. And then underneath I'm pushing in so that the hole I've made, there isn't any air gaps, because if the roots dry out then the plant will die. And I think we've got one more strong one. Drop him in, push the roots together, and that's that fella done. I'll carry on doing these and pick the 10 strongest. So there we are, lavender blue fragrance. I'll give those just a gentle water, and in the end I chose to put the 5 that were remaining into one pot. If I get any that damp off or I have a problem for any reason, then I'll have some backup, but in reality probably 10 is as many as I need. So I think they're going to be a successful sowing. So considerably less foliage in the Vitapod now, and you can see the lavender have taken up the extra space that was made by removing all the tips, and I think in reality I need to raise this left hand side of the Vitapod so that I don't get any pooling of water over here, and water slightly less, to see if I can overcome the edema. I thought I'd show you how the onions are progressing indoors. So the yellow Rheinsberger, these ones on the left, pretty good. Fairly slow growing, as all onions are. The Zebrun in the cells, the rooting cells, are just a mass of growth, doing really well. I'm not too worried that they're not standing up. They're not exhibition onions, and when I do get to plant them, they will stand up without any problems at all. And the Elsa Craig, much thinner, slower growth, but still carrying on. We've got some dieback on one or two of the pots, but generally they're doing okay. But by far the best performing at the moment is the Zebrun. So it's another rainy day in Wales. The allotment is just soaking wet. I'm pretty keen to get on the allotment even in bad weather, but I think I'd just tear up the ground and do more damage than good. So I'm going to carry on showing you the peppers that have preceded this segment. I'm doing that because we're just a few days on and the growth is quite incredible. From pinching them out, they are now shooting out of all the leaf nodes, so doing really well, and I'm looking forward to some very successful peppers this season. So further to that, I thought I'd spend some time showing you where I am with seeds and sowing, and I'll do that in two stages. Firstly, we'll just recap what I've sown, and I'll try and point out what I'll sow again in a succession method, and I'll also then show you what's going to come towards the end of February, maybe the beginning of March. I'll go through these quite rapidly. We've got Leek Blue Soleils, which I've already sown. I've sown a number of sweet peas. That was the cherub mix. Lettuce, Arctic King. I've started off a few just to see if we can get some early lettuce. The Arctic part of the name gives away that this can probably tolerate some colder temperatures. Rocket. We use rocket in salad throughout the summer, and getting some of that started. Broad beans. So I've sown these in the root trainers. That's Aqua Dolce, which is a very successful broad bean for me. You've seen my trials and plantings of yellow Rheinsberger, which is the winter storing onion, or at least long keeping onion, probably more precise. Cabbage, Golden Acre, half a dozen of those. I'm trying to keep the variety. Lavender, which I'm growing in the Vitapod and is doing really well. I've pricked that out now, and it's galloping away. Zebrun shallots, which are grown indoors under lights, and are probably the most vigorous of all the onions that I've grown. And pepper, sweet Aji. Well, I've shown you the peppers today. They're doing extremely well. Elsa Craig, a larger onion, which I've again sown a fair few of. The sweet pepper, Californian Wonder. Again, you've seen those, and they look like they're going to succeed. And then we've got a number of other peppers. King of the North, which is a sweet bell pepper, which I grow every year. It's an early variety, and it fruits really well in the polytunnel. Early sweet pepper. This one's called a Semero. It's a new pepper for me, but is growing really well. Sweet chocolate, bit of a novelty, but is growing well, and looking forward to seeing the fruit on that one. And then Caracolca, which is paprika pepper, sweet pepper, and I love paprika, so I'm going to see how we can best use this in a culinary sense. So they're the ones that I've sown already, and I'll probably sow some more leeks from those in the coming weeks, just so that we can get the leeks really growing well and in succession, and then some will last further into the season and into the winter. So these seeds are the ones that I'm going to be sowing end of February, early March, depends a little bit on the weather, but we'll get those underway. And first of all, calendula. This is a plant that we're going to use the petals on, so we're going to try and grow some volume of it. And then Mrs. K is going to do some calendula balm and use it in a number of ways. Cosmos, this is Cosmos Millennium, and I love Cosmos. Last year I was successful in germinating them, and then just a few weeks in with the plants growing reasonably well, I planted them on, and then the slugs devoured them. So I've learnt my lesson, and I think I'm going to grow these in very large tubs, so that at least I've got some control. And I'm probably going to put some sort of slug defense in place to overcome last year's disaster. Celeriac, you've seen me sow some celeriac already to see if I can get an early start on some. This is Prinz. This one specifically says to sow later in the season, so I held it back, and you can see that in another video in my channel. And then another variety of Cosmos, this one's called Gazebo. I'm going to grow a few because I just want to see what colours I like and what works best. This is Tender and True Parsnip. I'll probably do a video on this, but Tender and True is successful parsnip for me, and I grow these inside in tubes, in toilet roll tubes, and that means that when I plant them outside I don't disturb the root. If you damage the root in any way when you're potting these on, you end up with a forked root. So it's really important to have a method that maintains the root without any damage at all. Broccoli, this is Romanesco. I've never grown Romanesco, so this is one of those seeds that this year will be a bit of an experiment. That's what I did with celeriac, and I love it. I'm hoping that this one will be successful and will enjoy eating that as well. Calabrese, this is the green heading broccoli. We love broccoli. It goes into smoothies. We make broccoli soup with it, and we eat it just as a standard vegetable. Can't have enough of it. Broccoli's a fairly big plant and gives you one, maybe two heads. If you get the head early, you can sometimes encourage heads as side shoots, but we tend to grow a few of these. They make good use of the space because we eat them all. That's the green heading. This is the quick heading variety, so this is sort of automatic succession by using two different varieties. Purple top turnips. So last year I grew a white turnip and we put it in soups, and it was delicious. Previously I tried to grow turnips and hadn't really got a good root as a result. Last year I managed to succeed well, so I'm going for it this year. I'm going to grow the purple variety, and I'm going to grow the white variety. This one is Milan White 40-day early turnip. So again, succession is in my mind. I'm trying to grow that and then perhaps follow on with the purple one. This is another broad bean called Leeds Hangdown. So another variety. I'm going to grow this a little bit later than my first sowing, again thinking about follow-on crops and succession. Brussels sprout. So Brussels sprouts this year, I suffered from them all leaning over. We had some good Brussels from them, but I want to work more carefully with them, and so I'm going to stake Brussels sprouts this year, and I'm going to grow a couple of varieties, but this one, Long Island Brussels sprout, is where I'm going to start. This is from the Real Seed Company, which you've heard me talk about before, a fantastic local seed producer. And the benefit of that, as I've said many times, is that if it grows in my area, there's a good chance that I'll succeed growing with it. Winter giant leek. So I'll sow these a bit later on and plan to get those through the winter. This year my leeks suffered quite early on from frost damage, and forced me to make lots and lots of cheesy leeks, which is fantastic, and we froze it, and that's how I've extended the crop. But I want to see if I can get a leek that will go further into the cold part of the season. And then finally, early fortune cucumber from Real Seeds, one that's going to go into the polytunnel, of course. And we like cucumbers. These are fairly small, and that suits us. And that's the next stage of the seeds. So there's going to be quite a lot of sowing to be done. We're just waiting for a little bit of warm weather. Perhaps we can get through these storms and the worst of the cold, and then crack on with those. So there's another set of seeds which will come end of March, early April. I'll go through those at a later time. A couple that have arrived this week, which I need to start thinking about timing, is tomato crimson crush. And this is from Premier Seeds, and just 10 seeds in this little packet. But in reality, if you get 10 plants in the polytunnel, that's more than enough. I grow a few Moneymaker, a few Gardener's Delight, which will supplement those. And then I've never grown aubergines before, and I'm going to give that a go. My understanding is I'm going to kick off with this quite early, so I'll do a little bit of research on that. If you know what to do with aubergines, this is Black Beauty, then pop it in the comments below. 800 seeds in this pack from Premier Seeds. Wow, if I have 2 aubergine, maybe 3 at a push, that'll be plenty. So that's an incredible supply of seeds. So I don't think I'm going to have any problem getting successful germination. And that's it for today. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.